type of medicine that trains your body to fight any foreign agents.
Plants are helpful for the ecosystem.
It's an electronic device for storing and processing data.
The nervous system is all the collection of nerves in your body.
Yeast is a eukaryote.
Welcome to Spectacular Science, where it's all about science, with your host, Akshay.
Hey listeners, welcome back to this episode of Spectacular Science. I'm your host, Akshay. You're listening to this podcast right now, or you're listening to some music. But how are you able to hear that? It's all on a device like a laptop or an iPhone. But how are you able to hear that? Well, you're able to hear it thanks to speakers. Speakers are all around us, from those giant speakers in the movie theater to speakers that are on your phone and fit in your pocket. But how do speakers actually work, and what are the parts of a simple speaker? Well, in this episode of Spectacular Science, I'm going to take you into a deep dive into the science of speakers and how speakers convert electrical signals into acoustic energy, which is basically sound waves. Let's get right into it. A speaker or a loudspeaker is a device that's able to convert electrical signals from an input, which are basically the signals that you put into the speaker, into acoustic energy or sound waves. Let's talk about sound waves for a little bit. When you're hearing me right now, what you're actually hearing is sound waves. Sound waves are vibrations of air particles or other mediums that create sound. These vibrations travel through the air and go inside of our ears, where they vibrate different parts, and our brains understand that and tell us what we're hearing. Like if you're hearing my voice right now, your brain would be interpreting those electrical signals that come out of the speaker as sound waves, and those sound waves travel to your ear and say, hey, that's Akshay's voice. And that's how you're able to hear me right now. Well, loudspeakers use both electric and mechanical energy to convert an electrical signal from radio, television set, or even just a streaming service like a podcasting platform, or even a movie, into sound waves. So we have to break the speaker into different parts. Let's start off on the outside. On the outside, you would usually see a box or some kind of protection for the speaker. In case of your smartphone speaker, that would be the smartphone itself, the case around it. Now, there's also a part called a diaphragm, which is a long cone-shaped part on the outside of the speaker. This diaphragm is usually made out of a flexible material that's in a cone shape. It's flexible because it has to vibrate to create sound waves. This is where all those sound waves come from. Next, if you go a little bit inside of the speaker, you'll find a suspension, which actually holds the speaker's diaphragm in place. But it doesn't restrain it from vibrating, because we need vibrations to create sound waves, which travel to our ear to create what we hear. So that suspension holds it in place but doesn't restrain it. But under that suspension is a lot of magnets. There is a permanent magnet, which is always a magnet, and this magnet is located inside a speaker. And next to that is a copper coil. It's basically copper wire that's been coiled into a spring-like shape. That copper coil is what electricity travels through to get to vibrating the entire loudspeaker. So as the electricity moves up that coil, what happens is that it turns into an electromagnet. And an electromagnet is a type of magnet that's not permanent. It's only temporary, and there's only an electrical charge in that. And that electrical charge actually creates a magnetic field around that copper coil. And the good thing about electromagnets is that they can be turned off or on when you're not using them. And electromagnets can also change poles and can attract or repel the permanent magnet or the real magnet that's inside of it. So basically, there's two magnets that can attract or repel each other. The electrical charges that go inside the speaker determine if they're attracting or repelling each other. Now we have this permanent magnet and this electromagnet. And when both of these magnets interact, we get a movement. And this movement is attraction or repelling of the magnets. And as that happens, it starts to vibrate the diaphragm. And that actually causes it to vibrate the air and send sound waves through the air and go to our ears to turn electric signals into sound. And that is how a basic speaker works. It's basically two magnets. One is a permanent magnet and one is an electromagnet. And when the electricity travels through the electromagnet, it turns on and it starts attracting or repelling the other magnet. And that motion causes the diaphragm of the speaker to vibrate and create sound. Well, you may think that there's not just bulky thing in your phone, and that is because speakers have shrunk and all this technology has been packed into a tiny little piece, and that speaker piece is located inside of your phone. That's a lot of complex things, but it's really just simple if you think about it. If you go behind the science, you can just see that it's just two forces, electricity and magnetism, that create this magnificent invention, the speaker. That's how you're able to hear all of these recordings from the past or from the present, like I'm doing right now. Speakers are the reason why you can hear this podcast or chill out and listen to music on your free time. You have to thank speakers for a lot of things, like movies and music and podcasts. You know what? I should create a really good speaker that can play stuff really loud. Ooh, that would be really cool. I could have like a rock concert or something. But I think I need to work on that. I need to put a lot of parts together to make that. Before I go shopping to get some parts, what did we learn today? We learned that a speaker is a device that changes electrical signals into physical energy and sound waves. They work by vibrating a diaphragm, which is usually cone-shaped and made out of flexible material. And a copper coil and a real permanent magnet are put in under that diaphragm. And when that happens, when the electricity flows through the copper coil, it turns into an electromagnet and starts attracting or repelling the permanent magnet that's also inside. And that causes the diaphragm to vibrate and to create sound. Different electrical patterns can cause different parts of the electromagnet to be magnetized and can also cause different parts to be attracted or repelled. That pattern causes the speaker's drum-like skin, which is also known as a diaphragm, to vibrate, and that sends out sound waves in the air, and that is what creates sound. That's what you can hear, like I'm speaking right now. It's just so cool to think that speakers play such a big role in our lives, and we don't even realize that they work so tirelessly to help us listen to music or podcasts. And it's pretty simple. It's just electricity and magnetism. When you look closely, it's just two forces that are interacting with each other. We really have to thank speakers for a lot of things and for recording and listening back to all of our stuff. From radio broadcasts in the 1900s all the way to podcasts today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Spectacular Science. Spectacular Science produced and hosted by me, Akshay J. Raman. Our theme song is by Charan Ramachandran. Special thanks to Varun Ramachandran. Please visit my podcast website, spectacularsci.com, to find interactive activities, blog posts, articles, and all of our episodes. You can also find the link to sign up for the Spectacular Science membership, where you get lots of bonus content to keep you thinking about science. My favorite of those is the fact of the day, when you get a fun science fact every day. Sign up at spectacularsci.com/membership. Please follow or subscribe to this show on any podcasting platform or wherever you're listening right now. It really encourages me when you subscribe, and it means a lot. Thank you so much. I always love hearing from my listeners about science, and I just love interacting with my listeners. So please contact me at spectacularsci.com/contact or email me using the link posted on the page. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode of Spectacular Science next week. Keep thinking about science.